She walked into the boardroom that Tuesday morning and saw her entire life's work being presented as someone else's breakthrough. Dr. Rachel Martinez stood frozen as the company's head of research, Dr. Catherine Wells, clicked through slides showcasing the revolutionary cancer treatment protocol that Rachel had spent 4 years developing in secret after hours. The presentation title glowed on the screen: The Wells Method, Targeted Gene Therapy Revolution. Not a single mention of Rachel's name anywhere. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. They had called the entire oncology department into the main conference room at Helix Biotech without warning. Just a company-wide email from the CEO's office with the subject line, Major Research Announcement, All Staff Required. Rachel squeezed between her colleagues, finding a spot near the back wall. The room buzzed with excitement as everyone wondered what breakthrough would be announced. Rachel felt her stomach twist with anticipation, hoping this might finally be recognition for the gene therapy project she had been perfecting during countless sleepless nights. Dr. Wells stepped up to the podium with her usual commanding presence. Her perfectly styled blonde hair caught the conference room lights, and her designer blazer screamed executive authority. She had always carried herself like she owned every room she entered, and today was no different. Rachel watched as Catherine smiled confidently at the gathered scientists and researchers, many of whom had worked under her leadership for years. Today marks a historic moment for Helix Biotech, Catherine began, her voice carrying that familiar tone of superiority. After extensive research and development, I am proud to present a groundbreaking advancement in targeted gene therapy that will revolutionize cancer treatment forever. Rachel's heart started racing. This sounded exactly like her project. The same project she had mentioned to Catherine just 3 weeks ago during their one-on-one meeting. The first slide appeared, and Rachel felt the blood drain from her face. It was her flowchart, her exact methodology for targeting specific cancer cells while leaving healthy tissue untouched. The diagram she had drawn and redrawn dozens of times, perfecting every arrow and connection. But now it was labeled as Catherine's original research. Rachel gripped the wall behind her, trying to steady herself as the room spun slightly. Catherine continued her presentation with practiced ease, explaining the complex molecular mechanisms that Rachel had discovered through months of trial and error. She talked about breakthrough moments and sudden insights, using phrases that Rachel recognized because she had written them in her personal research journal. Every technical detail, every innovative approach, every solution to the problems that had kept Rachel awake for months, all of it was being presented as Catherine's genius. The beauty of this method, Catherine said, gesturing to another slide, lies in its precision targeting system. By modifying the delivery vector at the cellular level, we can ensure that healthy cells remain completely unaffected, while cancer cells are systematically eliminated. Rachel felt sick. Those were her exact words from the research proposal she had submitted to Catherine just last month. The audience was captivated. Senior researchers nodded in approval, junior staff members scribbled notes furiously, and the department heads looked impressed by what they believed was Catherine's innovative thinking. Rachel stood there watching her life's work being stolen in real time, presented to the very people she had hoped to eventually collaborate with on the project. When Catherine moved to the next slide, showing projected clinical trial timelines, Rachel noticed something that made her blood boil. The research timeline claimed that initial development had begun 2 years ago, well before Rachel had even started working on gene therapy. It was a complete fabrication designed to establish Catherine as the original inventor. Rachel realized this was not just theft, it was premeditated fraud. After the presentation ended, and the room erupted in applause, several colleagues approached Catherine to congratulate her on the breakthrough. Rachel watched as her boss accepted praise for work that had consumed Rachel's every spare moment for the past 4 years. The injustice of it felt like a physical weight pressing down on her chest. Dr. James Morrison, the department's senior researcher, shook Catherine's hand enthusiastically. "This is Nobel Prize-level work, Catherine. The precision of this approach is absolutely brilliant." Rachel wanted to scream. She wanted to stand up and tell everyone the truth. But she also knew that without proof, It would be her word against the head of research. As people began filing out of the conference room, Catherine caught Rachel's eye and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly what they had done and felt no remorse about it. Rachel stood there for a moment longer, watching Catherine bask in stolen glory, before quietly slipping out of the room. Back at her desk, Rachel sat in stunned silence for nearly an hour. Her computer screen displayed the gene therapy research files she had been working on that very morning, the same files that had somehow become Catherine's revolutionary breakthrough. She stared at months of her own work, her own late-night discoveries, her own solutions to complex molecular problems. Rachel remembered the conversation from 3 weeks ago when she had excitedly shared her progress with Catherine during their scheduled meeting. She had been so proud of the breakthrough she had achieved in targeting specific cancer cell markers. Catherine had listened with what Rachel thought was genuine interest, asking detailed questions about the methodology and taking extensive notes. "This is fascinating work, Rachel," Catherine had said during that meeting. "But you know how competitive this field is. Pretty girls like you should focus on the practical applications rather than trying to reinvent the theoretical foundations. Leave the complex research to those of us with more experience." Rachel had felt dismissed but had not realized it was actually an insult disguised as advice. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Now she understood that Catherine had been gathering information, not offering mentorship. Every question about Rachel's research methods, every request for detailed explanations, every suggestion to keep this between us until it's more developed, it had all been part of a calculated plan to steal Rachel's work. Rachel opened her personal research folder and began reviewing everything she had documented over the past 4 years. Her meticulous notes, her failed experiments, her breakthrough moments, her late-night calculations. All of it was there, time-stamped and detailed. She had always been thorough in her documentation, partly out of scientific training, and partly because she never fully trusted the corporate research environment. She pulled up the email she had sent to Catherine 3 weeks ago, the one that included a detailed summary of her gene therapy progress. The timestamp showed exactly when she had shared her breakthrough findings. She also found the follow-up emails where Catherine had asked for additional technical details, all sent before today's presentation date. As Rachel scrolled through her files, she began to understand the scope of what had been stolen. It was not just one discovery or a single innovative approach. Catherine had taken Rachel's entire research framework, her unique methodology, her years of experimental data, and her breakthrough insights. The theft was comprehensive and systematic. Rachel also realized that Catherine had been planning this for months. The casual questions during their meetings, the requests for progress updates, the suggestions to keep the research confidential. It had all been designed to isolate Rachel's work and prevent her from discussing it with other colleagues who might later serve as witnesses. The more Rachel thought about it, the angrier she became. But her anger was not the hot, explosive kind. It was cold and calculating. Catherine had underestimated her, treating her like just another pretty face in the lab who could be easily manipulated and discarded. That assumption was about to become Catherine's biggest mistake. Rachel opened a new document on her computer and began creating a detailed timeline of her research development. She included dates of every breakthrough, every failed experiment, every late-night discovery session, and every communication with Catherine about the project. She was building a case, methodically and precisely. She also started gathering evidence of her independent research. Her personal lab notebooks, filled with handwritten calculations and experimental observations. Her home computer, which contained backup files of every stage of the research process. Her correspondence with academic contacts who had provided input on specific molecular mechanisms. Her subscription to specialized databases that she had paid for personally to access cutting-edge research papers. As Rachel worked through the afternoon, building her evidence file, she began to feel something she had not experienced in years: complete control. Catherine might have stolen her work, but she had not stolen Rachel's brain or her ability to prove what had really happened. The game was just beginning, and Catherine had no idea who she was really playing against. Rachel saved her files to multiple secure locations and began planning her next moves. She would not rush into accusations or emotional confrontations. Instead, she would be strategic, patient, and absolutely thorough. Catherine had taught her an important lesson that day. In the world of corporate research, being brilliant was not enough. You also had to be smart about protecting your brilliance. The sun was setting outside the lab windows as Rachel finally packed up her things to leave. Tomorrow, she would begin the process of reclaiming her life's work. But tonight, she would go home and plan her strategy with the same methodical precision that had made her breakthrough discovery possible in the first place. As she walked toward the parking garage, Rachel felt a strange sense of calm settling over her. Catherine had stolen her research, but she had also revealed her own character in the process. Now Rachel knew exactly who she was dealing with, and that knowledge would be Catherine's downfall. The game was about to begin, and Rachel intended to win. Rachel spent the entire weekend building her case. She transformed her home office into a war room, spreading documents across every surface and creating detailed timelines on her whiteboard. Her cat, Einstein, watched curiously as she worked through the night, surrounded by printed emails, research notebooks, and backup files that would prove her authorship beyond any doubt. Monday morning arrived with unexpected ammunition. Rachel's phone buzzed with a text from her friend Sarah, who worked in the patent office downtown. Saw the Helix announcement. Congratulations on the breakthrough. When did you file the patent application? Rachel stared at the message, her coffee growing cold in her hands. Patent application. She had never filed one because Catherine had convinced her to keep the research internal until it was more developed. Rachel immediately called Sarah back. What patent application are you talking about? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Sarah sounded confused. The Wells method patent that was filed last month. Your name is listed as a co-inventor. I assumed you knew. Rachel felt her heart stop. Co-inventor. Not primary inventor, not even equal credit. Just a footnote in her own discovery. After hanging up, Rachel drove straight to the patent office. Sarah met her in the lobby, looking concerned about Rachel's pale complexion. I brought a copy of the filing, Sarah said, handing over a thick document. Something about this felt off when I saw the announcement. The timeline doesn't match what you told me about your research. Rachel sat in Sarah's office and read through the patent application with growing fury. Catherine had filed the application 6 weeks ago, claiming to be the primary inventor with Rachel listed as a quote. The application described Rachel's methodology, her breakthrough insights, and her innovative approach to cellular targeting, all presented as Catherine's original work with Rachel providing, quote, valuable assistance. The most insulting part was the inventor contribution breakdown. Catherine was credited with 75% of the innovation, while Rachel was listed as contributing only 25% through quote. It was a complete fabrication designed to steal credit while providing just enough acknowledgement to prevent obvious fraud charges. Rachel photographed every page of the patent application, noting the filing date, the technical descriptions that matched her personal research notes word for word, and the fraudulent inventor credits. This was not just workplace politics anymore. This was legal theft, documented and filed with federal authorities under Catherine's lies. Back at the lab, Rachel began her investigation with surgical precision. She accessed the internal research database and found that Catherine had uploaded Rachel's research files under her own name 3 months ago. The metadata showed that the files had been created on Rachel's computer, then copied to Catherine's account with altered timestamps to suggest earlier development. Rachel discovered something even more damaging in the system logs. Catherine had been accessing Rachel's personal research folder for months, downloading files during off hours when the lab was empty. The security logs showed Catherine's keycard being used to enter the building at 2 a.m. on multiple occasions, always coinciding with downloads from Rachel's private research directory. She also found email evidence that Catherine had been shopping Rachel's research to pharmaceutical companies for weeks. There were communication threads with major drug manufacturers discussing licensing deals for the Wells method, with Catherine presenting herself as the sole inventor. The potential revenue from these deals was enormous, running into hundreds of millions of dollars over the patent lifetime. Rachel printed everything, creating multiple backup copies and storing them in different locations. She had learned from Catherine's mistake of underestimating her opponent. This time, Rachel would be the one who was prepared for any situation. The next morning, Rachel received an email that changed everything. Dr. Elizabeth Chen from Stanford Medical School had written to congratulate her on the breakthrough and invite her to present at an upcoming gene therapy conference. The email mentioned seeing Rachel's name in academic database citations related to the research methodology. Rachel was confused until she checked the databases herself. Her personal research, which she had uploaded to academic repositories for peer review months ago, was still there under her name with original timestamps. She had forgotten about those uploads, made during late-night sessions when she was seeking feedback from the broader scientific community. Now they served as irrefutable proof of her authorship and the timeline of her discoveries. Rachel began responding to Dr. Chen's invitation, but instead of simply accepting, she crafted a careful reply that would create a permanent record of the truth. She explained that while she was honored by the invitation, she needed to clarify that her research had been misrepresented in recent company announcements. She attached links to her original academic submissions and offered to provide additional documentation of her independent research. Within hours, Dr. Chen responded with shock and concern. As a respected figure in the gene therapy community, she immediately understood the implications of what Rachel was describing. She offered to connect Rachel with legal experts who specialized in intellectual property theft and academic misconduct cases. But Rachel had a different plan. She would not rely on lawyers or external authorities to fight her battle. She would use Catherine's own tactics against her, but with the advantage of actually having the truth on her side. Rachel began reaching out to colleagues and academic contacts, not to make accusations, but to share her original research and establish a clear timeline of her discoveries. She sent detailed technical papers to peer reviewers, shared her methodology with international research groups, and presented her findings at online academic forums. Each interaction created a time-stamped record of her expertise and authorship. The response from the scientific community was immediate and overwhelming. Researchers from around the world recognized the brilliance of Rachel's approach and began citing her work in their own studies. Her methodology started appearing in academic papers, conference proceedings, and research grant applications, all crediting Rachel as the original developer. Meanwhile, Catherine was basking in her stolen glory, unaware that the foundation of her lies was crumbling around her. She accepted interview requests from scientific journals, agreed to speak at prestigious conferences, and began negotiations with pharmaceutical companies for lucrative licensing deals. Each public appearance only created more evidence of her fraud. Rachel documented everything Catherine said publicly, comparing her statements to Rachel's original research notes. Catherine was making technical errors in her explanations, misunderstanding key aspects of the methodology, and contradicting herself when pressed for detailed explanations. It was clear that she did not truly understand the science behind the work she had stolen. The breaking point came during a live-streamed conference where Catherine was presenting the research to an international audience. A researcher from Oxford asked a detailed question about the molecular binding mechanisms that Rachel had discovered. Catherine stumbled through an answer that was technically incorrect, revealing her superficial understanding of the complex science involved. Rachel watched the live stream from her office, taking notes as Catherine's credibility collapsed in real time. The chat comments from other scientists started questioning Catherine's expertise, and several attendees challenged her explanations with pointed technical questions that she could not answer adequately. After the conference, Rachel received messages from colleagues who had watched the presentation. They expressed confusion about the discrepancies between Catherine's public explanations and the technical sophistication of the research itself. Some mentioned having seen Rachel's earlier academic submissions and wondered about the connection. Rachel realized that Catherine's theft was becoming obvious to anyone with genuine expertise in the field. The scientific community was beginning to notice the inconsistencies, and Catherine's lack of deep understanding was exposing the fraud to precisely the people who mattered most. But Rachel was not content to wait for others to uncover the truth. She had spent 4 years developing this breakthrough, and she intended to reclaim credit for it through her own actions. She began planning a presentation of her own, one that would demonstrate her mastery of the science and establish her rightful place as the true inventor. Rachel contacted Dr. Chen and accepted the invitation to present at Stanford, but with a twist. Instead of simply presenting the research, she would tell the complete story of its development, including the challenges she had overcome and the innovative solutions she had discovered along the way. She would let her deep understanding of the science speak for itself. She also began preparing a comprehensive research paper that would serve as the definitive documentation of her work. Unlike Catherine's superficial presentations, Rachel's paper would include detailed experimental data, failed attempts that led to breakthroughs, and technical insights that only the true inventor could provide. As Rachel worked on her presentation, she felt a sense of excitement that she had not experienced since her original breakthrough. This was not about revenge or confrontation. This was about reclaiming her identity as a scientist and ensuring that her life's work would be properly attributed to its true creator. The night before her Stanford presentation, Rachel reviewed her notes one final time. She had evidence, she had expertise, and she had the truth on her side. Catherine might have stolen her research, but she could never steal Rachel's brilliant mind or her ability to prove what she had accomplished. Rachel closed her laptop and smiled. Tomorrow, the scientific world would learn the real story behind the breakthrough, and Catherine would discover that pretty girls with brains were far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.